Hey guys, this is Belle. Check out my interview with the Flash and Legends of Tomorrow star, Matt Letscher. Here we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hey Matt, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah. I'm glad we finally got a chance to hook up. It's been a little while, but
Yeah,
thanks for being patient.
Yeah, definitely. Alright, so I got a bunch of Legends of Tomorrow and Flash questions here.
Okay.
Alright, so how did you end up getting the role of the Reverse Flash?
I got the role of the Reverse Flash in the first season of The Flash. Andrew Kreisberg, who is the executive producer on The Flash, called me, and he's someone who I'd worked with before on a show called Eli Stone. He called and said that he and Greg Berlanti had had a conversation about me playing this role, the Reverse Flash, and I wasn't that familiar with the comic books, so I needed him to explain exactly what it was. But that's when it happened, about midway through season 1 of The Flash.
Did you have to get any of the comic books to study your character?
I did, yeah. I did. I've read some stuff. I haven't read nearly as much as most people. The canon is pretty large. But I did do some research, and of course you get a lot of help, too, from the guys who are writing the shows because they know everything. But also, you know, the difference is that on the TV shows, they're trying to sort of create their own world, too, and not necessarily stick 100% to the world that the comic books created. So you kind of have to do your research and at the same time be willing to let it go.
Yep. And what is it about being on a show like The Flash or Legends of Tomorrow that most people wouldn't expect?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What is it about being on a show like The Flash or Legends that most people would not expect?
Oh, that's interesting. You know, I think when you see the shows on TV, you see all the great special effects. Our visual effects departments are so great, and those shots, when you see them in the show, look so cool. I mean, the CGI is blended with the live action stuff so well. But on the days that you're actually shooting those shots, they look so silly because it's just the actors, you know, sort of either acting out things with an imaginary foe, like I was in the season finale of Legends this year with the Black Flash. I have this thing that he does to me at the end, and I'm acting it out with empty space. There's nobody there to do that with, so it's kind of silly. Or if you're pretending to, you know, run super fast, a lot of times we're doing that in front of a green screen, and you're just running in place. You're not running anywhere. You're just running in place, and they're going to insert you into the shot later. So I think people, if they saw that actually happening on set, would have a pretty good chuckle about it.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite scene that you shot?
Yeah, I think, boy, that's hard to say. The one that leaps to mind is the one I shot in the second season of The Flash with Grant in the episode The Reverse Flash Returns. And there's, you know, the scene is, you know, he's basically asking me why, and I'm telling him why, you know, I am the way I am, and it sort of culminates with this line where I say, I became better than you. And I just feel like you learn a lot about Eobard Thawne and his motivations in that scene. And also working with Grant is really, really easy. You know, I think he's a pretty great actor. So that's the one scene that stands out to me.
That sounds great. Grant is a great actor, just like you too. So how is it to be working with him?
Working with Grant is terrific. I mean, he's incredibly prepared every day. Given the volume of material he has to he has to deal with on every episode. He comes in super prepared, not at all jaded or run down by his circumstances. I mean, he is very invested in his role and in doing what he does. So I give him all the credit in the world. I just think he's really talented too. I think, after The Flash, I think he's going to go on to do all kinds of other things that are surprising and good. He's just a great actor.
How exciting to have your Reverse Flash become a fan favorite and have you keep coming to the show.
It's very exciting. Yeah, it's fun to be a part of something that so many people care about. And so when I got the call about being sort of the big baddie on season 3 of Legends, I was excited because I just knew, season 2 of Legends, I just knew the way that they were kind of reinventing the show was going to be really exciting, and to be a part of something like that, along with being a part of something like the Legion of Doom, in working with guys like John Barrowman and Neil McDonough and Wentworth Miller, I just knew it was going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it was really nice to see you back on these shows. When you first played this character on The Flash, and then his storyline came to an end there, and did you know that you would be returning and continuing in some form, or was that a surprise?
It's always a little bit of a surprise, I mean, he's died twice now, and they keep finding a way to bring him back. But they did tell me, I mean, when I first spoke with Andrew Kreisberg regarding the role in season 1, he said, Eobard Thawne is, one of the Flash's arch enemies, so he'll always be coming back. We'll always be doing stuff with him, and beyond what we're doing this season, we'll have a lot for you to do. So I had the idea that something good like that would happen, but I didn't know specifically how it would unfold. So to sort of be along for the ride like this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And how was it teaming up with John Barrowman, Neil McDonough, and Wentworth Miller?
It was terrific. They're all wonderful actors, each in their own regard. I mostly worked with John and Neil for the season, and those two were great together in particular. I feel like they had a really good chemistry and balanced my character really well. They both have much deeper histories in the Arrowverse, and so it sort of gave a whole different context to the Legion of Doom, which I appreciated. And then to have Wentworth come in at the end, he's such a interesting actor and such a, I think deep soul. To have that element threaded into it as well was really fun. I thought it was pretty special, and in fact, a lot of people said that the Legion of Doom should have their own show, and so I would wholeheartedly endorse that idea. I said it should be a situation comedy with the 4 of us. But
that would be something I would watch. Yeah, and do the members of the Legion each see themselves as a leader of the group?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Do each of the members of the Legion see themselves as the leader of the group?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think they all, in some form or another, end up seeing Eobard Thawne as the leader, at least in season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow, because he's the one who knows how to fix all of their problems, with the Spear of Destiny and what Eobard knows about that, he's the key to their future success. But they don't have any real abiding loyalty to him. Once they get what they want, as we see in the show, they're willing to turn on him on a moment's notice. So I don't think they view themselves as any lesser, certainly, than Eobard Thawne. And they're more than happy to do without him.
Yeah, I could see that coming from a mile away from episodes before.
Yeah. Well, we started building towards it, where you start to see, how Merlin and Damien are a little dissatisfied with the way that Eobard's treating them, and even though they form a partnership, it's really. A partnership between villains is never truly a partnership. Somebody's always going to try and undermine the other one. So, but it was fun to see how it played out. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. And because each of the Legion have their own reason for working together and their own agenda, how difficult was it for them to get on the same page as far as using the Spear of Destiny to rewrite reality?
Well, I don't think it was too difficult to get on the same page for using the Spear of Destiny, because if they didn't, they were all dead, and they had each already died, they didn't have a future without it. So they knew they had to get to that point where reality was rewritten. Mm-hmm. It was just a matter of what that reality was going to look like, and for each of them, I think we see in the final episodes, they are sort of shaping their reality exactly how they would imagine it being best, and yet still they clash. Between the three of them in particular, they have real problems coexisting in their ideal realities. So, mm-hmm. It's sort of one of those "be careful what you wish for" scenarios.
Yeah. And at any point, has Eobard reconsidered his decision of bringing the other legions into to help with his plan? Did he ever just wish he just went at it alone?
That's a good question. Yes, but I think Eobard recognized, because he was being pursued by the Black Flash, because he had limitations on his movements, he needed to have some sort of help. He needed to have somebody that was able to fill in for him, and ultimately, as we saw in the Legion of Doom episode, someone to help protect him from the Black Flash. It's an uneasy alliance, and it's not one that Eobard prefers, I don't think, because he considers himself so superior intellectually and physically to anybody else that it almost feels demeaning to have to rely on somebody. But even he recognized that he had to have it. So in the end, that's what it was.
Yeah. And what does it truly mean to rewrite reality? And if Eobard is just the only one who fully grasps what that means?
Well, yeah, I don't know about that. I think the other guys probably understood that. I think we're probably going to find out. I mean, in Season 3 of Legends, it looks like we're going to find out a lot about what it means to rewrite reality and the repercussions that has. The question I have, for Eobard Thawne is, you had so many different options. You had an infinite number of realities available to you. You could have traveled back to home, to the future, where you wanted to be in the first place. You could have destroyed the Black Flash, or potentially moved him to another timeline or something. Why did you choose, Doom World? Why did you choose to create it the way that you did? And I can understand a lot of it, but then knowing that there are sort of infinite scenarios out there, it makes you wonder, what were you thinking? What else could you have done to have protected yourself more?
Right. But,
that's only natural.
And it's very hard to see these guys as anything but bad guys. So as the person who probably knows his character better than anyone, other than maybe the writers, what do you think makes Eobard human?
That's a great question. As we know, Eobard, when he first started investigating the Speed Force, and when he first had an awareness of the Flash and who the Flash was, and what the Flash meant to people, he clearly had some sort of great affinity for him. He had a great affinity for the Flash's role in society. And then when he found out that he was not destined to be the Flash, but to be the Reverse Flash, the Flash's greatest enemy, I think something kind of broke in him, psychically. So there is this need, this deep need. This is going to sound corny, I guess, but to be loved, and not just to be loved by your mother or father, although I think that's probably what's at the root of it, but to be loved by society at large, in the way that the Flash is loved, in the way that a superhero only can be loved, as this perfect superhuman object. And obviously that's a need that I think will never get filled. that's a hole, a bottomless pit for Eobard that will never get filled. And so it's that sort of well of that absence of love, that absence of acceptance that drives him to be greater, smarter, faster, better than the Flash. And it's kind of a sad loop that he finds himself in,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but I love the character, so that's my love for him.
Oh, thanks. I love the character too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting angles on Eobard that I think haven't even begun to be explored yet in the CW universe. So maybe we'll get to see more someday.
Yeah, hopefully. Did you ever expect to be on the DC TV universe for this long and so loved by the fans?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I'm grateful that I've sort of been able to participate on 2 different shows over the last few seasons. I'm really grateful that the fans have responded to the character. Of course, the character started with Tom Cavanaugh, and he was so great in the role, and then you find out that it's actually me inhabiting Tom Cavanaugh's body, midway through, and the fans, seem to be able to take that in stride and move forward with him as he turned into this other guy, and it's just been a really interesting, fun journey, and I look forward to sharing more experiences with the fans, whether it's on the television shows or at conventions or anywhere. Conversations like this, I've really had a great time with the whole experience.
That's awesome, and I was really confused during season 1 with how I couldn't tell who Tom Cavanaugh was or who you were. I was going back and forth on the whole thing. I couldn't tell if one was Eobard or one was Harrison Wells. So I was new to the DC universe at the time.
Right. Do you have it now, though? Do you know?
Yeah, I definitely have it now.
Yeah, I think that took a lot of people by surprise, and you had to really go back and go over it to figure out who was who, and when exactly it was that Eobard inhabited Harrison Wells' body. Yeah. But it was a neat little trick by Andrew Kreisberg and everybody over at the Flash. I think it obviously put a whole different spin on the season.
Yeah. And what do you love most about playing the character?
I guess what I love most about playing the character is he really does have not just a scientific intelligence, but I feel like he does have a very human intelligence. Like he understands how to sense people's weaknesses and manipulate them in a way that maybe only real psychopaths understand. I love his relationship with Barry in that regard, because I feel like he really, in some ways, understands Barry's strengths and weaknesses maybe more than Barry does. Mm-hmm. And that sort of, those kinds of powers of perception are very attractive to play with. It makes for very rich scenes.
Yeah. And when you first arrived on the set for your first episode of The Flash, what was that like? Who did you hit it off with most?
I think I mostly on for the very first episode of Flash. I think most of my stuff was actually with Tom Cavanaugh, because that was the episode where you saw me, sabotage the car that he and his wife were driving, or was his wife at the time, was driving, and then use that device to inhabit his body. It's like you see the whole origin story in that first episode, at least the origin for the CW version of Eobard and how he comes into their timeline. So it was mostly Tom, and I was just sort of asking him questions about, listen, how does this character work? Where does he fit into the world here? Trying to get impressions from him, and he was hugely helpful. And it really wasn't until later that season and the next season that I spent more time with Grant.
Yeah. And if the CW had a spin-off about Eobard's past, what would you hope to see in that show?
Oh, that's great. You know, if they had a spin-off about Eobard's past, I might want to see something akin to like what we see on Gotham. You know, I don't know if you watch Gotham, but
I do.
You know, a little bit of like what Bruce Wayne's childhood is like, and the surrounding characters that help form his psyche at that time in his life. Mm-hmm. I think that could be pretty interesting. I don't know what role there would be for me in that, but the whole idea that this super brilliant person feels like he's a failure because he can't be this other person is really interesting to me. There's something really deficient in his psyche or his character that makes that his default setting. And finding out what that is would be really interesting.
Yeah. And if you could cast a younger version of yourself or Eobard to play the character on that show, who would you pick?
Oh, how young are we talking about? So maybe
like a kid or something, starting out like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. You might know some younger actors better than I would. Who would you pick?
Yeah, that's true.
Do you have any ideas?
Jacob Tremblay.
Okay, sounds good to me.
If you could go back in time to change something about one of your films or TV shows, which would it be and why?
Oh, that's a great question. If I could go back in time, well, I know exactly what it would be, actually. I was in a movie that you probably haven't seen. It was called Identity. This movie is about, 12 years old, and it was with John Cusack. It was directed by James Mangold. And I had this whole big monologue. I was playing an assistant district attorney who was about to spring a guy out of prison. And I had this whole monologue that started off the film. It was me just talking for like 2 pages about what was happening with this prisoner. And I had it all memorized. I did great in the audition, and I was ready to go when I got to set. When I got to set, I was given a set of rewrites that I had never seen, and it was a completely brand new monologue. And I freaked out, and I was scared to tell anybody that I hadn't received the rewrites. So I tried to memorize this monologue in the 45 minutes to an hour we had before we started shooting. And I did fine on the day, but I didn't do as well as I could have, certainly. And if I could go back in time, I would have the courage to say to the director, "Listen, I just got these pages. I don't even know what this is. I'm going to need some time to work on this." Because I feel like anytime you make a decision based on fear, which is what that decision of mine was, fear that the director would be upset, fear that I would slow down production. Anytime you make a decision based on fear, you end up regretting it. It ends up not being a strong decision. So that's the first thing that comes to mind is what I did in Identity a long time ago.
If you had the spear of destiny, how would you rewrite your reality?
I wouldn't change a thing. My reality is pretty great. I would. Let's see. If I could rewrite reality, I would try and change something pretty small. I would make it so that I didn't get the flu this past winter. That would be great. I would have liked to have avoided that, but otherwise, my life's pretty great. I can't complain.
And what are the chances of seeing Eobard again?
I think the chances are pretty good. I don't know. I don't have any guarantees, and you could see him in different forms, I suppose. But I think the chances are pretty good. He's a pretty big character in the Flashiverse. So sometime, maybe not next year, maybe the year after that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and since you're possibly done with the DC TV universe, what will you do now?
Well, I'm a writer, so I've got a couple of projects that I'm finishing up right at the moment. And I'm hoping to shoot another season of this series I did, this web series called One and Done, which people can find at oneanddoneshow.com if they so choose, or on a service called Stream Now. Yeah, I'm just looking for the next thing that's not in a leather suit. I'd like to not wear a leather suit for a little bit. So whether that's a play or a movie this summer, either of those sound pretty good.
I haven't even seen the One and Done show yet, so how did that come together?
It was something that I wrote with my partner. It was based on, sort of personal experience. It's about these 4 guys in their 40s who decide to reform their high school basketball team and enter a really competitive tournament. It's a comedy about 4 guys who have kind of drifted apart over the years and then come back and kind of rekindle their friendship. It's 7 episodes. They're each about 12 minutes long, and it works pretty well. I'm pretty proud of it. So we're hoping to do another season of it.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Matt.
Thank you, Belle. I really appreciate your persistence, and good luck with your YouTube channel and everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.